Shabbat Shalom. Have you ever gone through a difficult or challenging time and then later tried to make sense of it, to try and figure out whether you actually learned anything or grew from that experience and transform it then from a challenging moment to an affirmative one? Well, that's a question that the rabbis ask about the experience of the Israelites as they wandered in the wilderness. In fact, we begin that portion of the Torah where the Israelites are going to leave Mount Sinai and begin their journey towards the land of Israel. The book is called in English Numbers because there is a census that takes place with the Israelites at the beginning of this portion. But in Hebrew it's called Bamidbar, in the wilderness, because the book is really about the wanderings and the experience. We might think from the outset that it was a terrible, challenging time, but perhaps there's another way that can be looked at. The rabbis talk about that the Israelites had all the food and drink that they needed most of the time, from the manna, the water, the well of Miriam that the rabbis say followed them. So they had everything they really needed, much like the Garden of Eden. It's how you look at life, is what you have or what you don't have. And what about that experience of the wilderness itself? Well, it was a time of bonding for the Jewish people, a time for people to spend together. They had to maybe understand it a little bit differently, the journey of what it meant to be a people. I think sometimes about COVID and how it brought families closer together. There's one opinion that the word Bamidbar actually comes from a Hebrew word, ledaber, to speak, medaber, the one who speaks. And that in the wilderness that the Israelites actually could hear that voice of God. They could feel God's presence in ways that they couldn't previously. You see, sometimes you have to get the clutter away just to be able to experience life differently, to hear it differently, to see it differently. And perhaps that's what that desert experience, that wilderness was about. One commentator says that we all have to become like a wilderness. We all have to enter into a spiritual, metaphoric place where we empty ourselves in order to better understand and experience life around us, to hear God's presence better, to be able to understand and appreciate life in a very different way. Well, I often think about that important message of trying to experience life differently. And that's what Shabbat is about, to experience life differently. So on this Shabbat, I pray for you that you should find your own personal wilderness, to hear things differently, to see things differently, to come out of it and understand and appreciate the blessings of life. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom.